In case you're just joining us, the book is Red Army. The co-authors are Aaron Klein and Brenda Elliott. Brenda is our guest today on Politics and Religion. This is one of the better books that I have come across in quite a while. Very well documented, and it's information that every American needs to know right now as we are facing probably the most important election in the history of the United States of America. Okay, Brenda, we're talking today about how socialism has infiltrated the institutions of America almost undercover. If most people knew they were voting for a socialist, they probably would not do it. However, socialism is starting to lose some of its stigma. People are becoming more acceptant, probably because of the re-education process our nation has been undergoing for many years. But back to my question now. Do you believe, after all of the research that you have done, that President Barack Obama is a Marxist?
Well, you know, there's an old joke. If it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it might be a duck. He walks the walk and he talks the talk. I mean, he has done it way back into his early campaigns in Chicago and Illinois. There was a splinter organization to the Democratic Socialists of America, and it's the Chicago DSA. And Barack Obama was very much associated with their programs and their activities. He was a member of something called the New Party, which was founded in part by the Democratic Socialists of America. He ran on the New Party ticket in Illinois. He was endorsed and supported by the Chicago DSA. He tried to distance himself from that, and some of his supporters worked very hard. The bloggers behind the scenes that go to the comments and do a lot of behind-the-scene campaigning or anti-politicking for other candidates. And there are several pieces of literature that have clearly been found with his name on it as a candidate for the New Party, which is a socialist party founded by socialists, run by socialists. It's almost impossible to not believe, based on the proof, documentation, that yes, we can say that Barack Obama is a socialist. Now, that does not mean he's not fully into crony capitalism, because the flip side of all of this is the ruling elite. And those are the folks that the word crony capitalism now makes it sound nicer than what it really is, even though it doesn't sound very nice at all.
So are you saying that socialism sometimes marries crony capitalism?
Oh, hand in hand. When you were talking about going back decades about how the socialists and the progressives and the liberals have infiltrated. Back decades, Michael Harrington, who was the founder, the brains behind the founding of Democratic Socialists of America, he was an advisor in the 60s to the Students for Democratic Society that splintered into the Weather Underground, which went more violent, and then the other groups, other people in the the Students for Democratic Society, went to community organizing. Well, Harrington could see that all of the violence and the activities that the Weather Underground was doing wasn't productive as far as pushing the Democratic Party politically to the left. So he said it had to be infiltrated. Now, this is a Fabian socialist idea that goes way back to the late 1800s. But Harrington grasped the meaning of having to infiltrate to push the party further to the left, to push the agenda that the socialists wanted.
So what you're saying is that they've adopted a policy of stealth, that they
absolutely.
That they can't say, hey, we're socialist or Marxist or communist, so they come in disguising themselves in order to try to capture the agenda of whatever party they're trying to infiltrate. Now, you mentioned the Weather Underground there, Brenda. Isn't that the organization that Bill Ayers was a part of?
Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn and another fellow were co-founders of the Weather Underground. Bill is really the more passive of a husband and wife team. Bernadine is definitely the more violence-oriented. But they've not gone away. I mean, they were radicals in the 60s, but they're still out there. Bill Ayers just recently spoke at a teach-in at Occupy Chicago. Both Bill and Bernie are very much active in the Gaza flotilla movement. We've got a lot of these folks from the 60s that are busy on that side. And then on the other side of things, we have many of these SDS, Students for Democratic Society folks, that are active in the community organizing side. Heather Booth founded the Midwest Academy in the mid-'70s, and she has trained literally hundreds of union and other street community activists. Barack Obama is said to have attended her training.
So the reason I bring up Bill Ayers is because he, I think, hosted the first fundraiser for the Senate campaign for Barack Obama. And also his wife came very close to being put in prison for a bombing that took place back in the 60s, I think it was.
Right. She did serve time because she refused to testify.
So what we've got here then is Bill Ayers and his wife then hosted the first fundraiser for the Barack Obama campaign for Senate, and now you're telling me that Bill Ayers is a socialist, and now then he's speaking at these Occupy rallies that are being held all over the country right now. So after a picture starts to emerge here, and we're watching, and then you've got when Joe the plumber said to Barack Obama, candidate, so you're wanting to bring about wealth redistribution then? And then Barack Obama did not deny. He actually said, well, I think we do need to spread the wealth around. So it's an interesting picture, and sometimes this maze becomes so complex it's hard to really get our teeth into it. And that's the reason I'm asking a couple of these questions, to see if we can really nail something down here, because sometimes these progressives are like trying to nail Jell-O to the wall.
Well, it's like trying to herd cats. It's very difficult. We put in the beginning of almost all the chapters is a diagram that gives some idea how some of these organizations and people fit together. But it is deliberately complex. It is deliberately impossible to follow. When you start talking about organizations that involve members, leading members of the unions, you find these people on multiple boards. You find boards of directors that they overlap from organization to organization to organization, and then they're always changing the names of their organization. It becomes one thing, and the next thing you turn around, they're forming another one, but it's the same people. It's always the same general core of people.
So if Barack Obama is a Marxist, is that possibly the reason all of his school records are sealed? Is that the reason perhaps they don't want us to read his papers that he wrote while in college? What do you think about that?
Well, I think, any student that is not proud of their grades doesn't want anyone to see it. One of the speculations, which I think is probably the most likely, is that he didn't do very well. You don't have to show really great grades to be a state senator. It's not like going in the U.S. Senate, but once you got your foot in the door, people don't ask those questions. The other speculation has been that when he went to Occidental College, that he came in as a foreign student. His status of citizenship was one of the things that Erin and I discovered in some old files from his stepfather, not his father, but his stepfather, Lolo Sotero. He was a foreign exchange student in Hawaii, and when his time was up, most foreign students, their time is up, they go back home. Well, there was war brewing in Indonesia. He didn't want to go back home. He was on a military scholarship connection with his government. So those documents give us a picture of Barack Obama, the child of his mother, and the State Department, the immigration people, questioned his status. Now, probably all of the documents are not there because it was, hand-done paperwork back in the 60s. Things were a lot different. We didn't have computer databases. But there were questions of his citizenship even then. And because there's all kinds of conspiracy theory thoughts of, did he give it up when he, did he give up some kind of rights when he went to Indonesia? I mean, we know he has a foreign-born father who was a British subject at the time. It's all very complicated, all very convoluted, but my money would be more on his grades than anything else.
So if he went to, say, Occidental College and maybe received aid as a foreign student because his dad was not American, then later on claimed American citizenship, then he could even be possibly subject to charges of perjuring
fraud.
himself. Yeah, fraud. So, like you say, it's very complex, and we probably don't want to get into that today, but nevertheless, interesting to think about all of it. Oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, in the next segment, we will be taking your calls on the program. If you'd like to be on with Brenda Elliott, the number to call is 877-Endtime. Let me see if I can ask one more question about 1 minute we have left here, Brenda, in this segment. Are these progressives confined to the Democratic Party, or are there Republicans that are involved as well?
I believe that we have a lot of stealth progressives on the Republican side. And really, if you wanted to figure out who they are, look and see how they vote, who they vote with, what are the issues that they fight for. Here, I'm in New Hampshire, and I'm right next on the Maine border, actually. And we have two lady senators over there, Snow and Collins, who are Republicans, and they certainly do not vote majority of the time like Republicans.
So they become what you call rhinos, Republicans in name only.
Right, in capital letters.
Okay, something for you to think about, Brenda, as we're approaching our next segment during this break. Of the Republicans presently running for Republican nomination for president, which would continue the trend towards socialism, and which do the progressives most fear? I'd like to have your opinion about that. We'll also take your calls out there during the next segment. 877-End Time's the number to call. We'll be back in just a moment.